Good morning, Canada. Welcome to the first sip. It's our brand new show, the very first episode of Bakes on Things, the first sip. It's our morning program, and we're going to have an afternoon program here for you at the end of the day to wrap up all of the day's events as well. But what a morning to begin with, because yesterday, Prime Minister Mark Carney stood up in front of cameras and declared that Canada is officially recognizing a Palestinian state. We're not the only nation. But here's the thing. He said it like he was reading from a Hallmark card written by the World Economic Forum, like it was something that we, as a collective nation, you and I, had been begging him for. But let's be honest here. This wasn't your choice. It certainly wasn't my choice. It wasn't even debated in Parliament with the seriousness that a move of this magnitude would demand. This was Mark Carney and his globalist buddies making a decision for you and for me and for everyone else without any of us ever getting a say. This is starting to become his habit. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Well, good morning to you, Canada. Welcome to the very first episode of our morning show, The First Sip. We started it bright and squirrely. Happy that you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and of course, hype this video. This is problem number one, folks. Recognition of a state isn't some throwaway headline. It has enormous diplomatic and economic consequences. For decades, Canada has walked a very careful line, maintaining humanitarian aid while supporting peace talks, but never really jumping headfirst into unilateral recognition like this. Why? Well, because doing so throws us into direct conflict with our closest ally and our biggest trading partner, the United States. And maybe this was the plan all along. We'll soon find out. But Washington has been very crystal clear that recognition outside of a negotiated peace process determines, or undermines rather, efforts toward stability. And worse, Hamas, the group still running Gaza, is designated by the U.S., the EU, and yes, even Canada, our own selves, as a terror organization. So what signal does Carney think he's sending by rushing into all of this without even running it through Parliament? That we've decided to cozy up to groups the West calls terror organizations? That our economic survival is worth risking to score some political points with certain voting blocs across this country? Something is going on here. Why would you avoid Parliament with this? And let's not forget, just weeks ago, U.S. officials openly hinted that if Canada went down this road, trade talks could suffer. That means jobs. That means GDP. That means the already fragile Canadian economy, which Carney has been obliterating since he's been prime minister and has been running right into the ground with reckless spending and fantasy trade missions, could take yet another hit. And in case anyone forgot, 80% of Canadian exports go south across the border. Do you really think Washington is going to look kindly on a government that thumbed its nose at their warnings just to impress the World Economic Forum cocktail circuit in Davos? Not a chance. Now, why did all of this happen? Let's really dig into that, because there are two possibilities here, and neither of them are good. The first is ideology. Carney has spent years tangled up with the World Economic Forum, where recognition of Palestine has been pushed as part of their grand vision for global governance. The same World Economic Forum where elites fly in on private jets, just obliterating the atmosphere with carbon, to lecture you about climate change and shared futures, while they cut deals you'll never actually see. Carney may be less interested in representing Canadian interests with this than in solidifying his credentials as the obedient technocrat who plays well on the world stage. The second possibility is votes. Let's face it, the Liberals have been starting to crumble. Even the Nanos poll this weekend is showing contraction in their numbers. And Carney knows he needs to cling to every potential support base that he can find. By pandering to internationalist voters or groups sympathetic to Palestinian recognition, he's making a cold calculation here. He's gambling with our trade, our diplomacy, and our reputation for the sake of a few ridings. That's not leadership, folks. That's complete and utter desperation in a time where we can't afford it. And what does this mean for ordinary Canadians? It means higher risk of diplomatic retaliation. It means slower, colder trade negotiations with the United States, just as we're desperate for a renewed deal. It means our economy, already teetering, could tip further into contraction. And it means Canada's voice on the world stage shifts from measured and respected to reckless and naive. When your prime minister acts like a student activist instead of a head of government, this is the kind of thing that starts to happen. It doesn't just embarrass yourself, you endanger your citizens because of this. Look around the world, and you'll see how dangerous this type of thing can become. These rash moves are not necessarily new. Let's go to Sweden for a second. If we go back in time to 2024, Palestine back in 2024, Israel froze diplomatic ties for months with Sweden. European trade tensions flared, and Sweden's role as a neutral broker in the Middle East vanished overnight. The country's leaders thought that they were making a symbolic gesture, but instead they lost influence altogether. They lost credibility and they lost access into key talks. Okay. And then another example of this in Spain in 2021, diplomatic gamble with Western Sahara. This is a diplomatic gamble that they made. Madrid abruptly shifted recognition under pressure. And what happened? Morocco retaliated. They recalled its ambassador. And for months, Spanish exports and border operations with Morocco, all of that gone. An essential trade and migration partner disrupted and gone for months. The Spanish economy paid a steep price for a move that their leaders framed as moral, but executed without consensus or foresight. The parallels to Canada today are quite obvious in those scenarios. Make a symbolic choice without weighing the cost or running it by anyone, and you invite consequences you cannot control. So this isn't about whether you support Palestinian self-determination or not. That's not the conversation that we're having here. Reasonable people can and do disagree or agree on that. The issue is how it's being done and who gets to decide that it's been done in the first place. A decision this monumental should have come through Parliament with full debate, with Canadians able to see the risks and weigh in. Instead, Carney stood at a podium, declared it done, and expects you to just clap along, just like seals at the aquarium. Well, that's not who we are, is it, Canada? That isn't democracy. That isn't Canada itself. That is government by fiat, designed to serve the World Economic Forum and to salvage a party's political survival, not to serve you as a Canadian citizen. So here's the bottom line. Mark Carney has just gambled with your future. He's placed Canada's economy, our trade, and our international credibility on the chopping block with this announcement to appease elites and to secure a few more votes. This is not leadership. This is just simple betrayal. And if Canadians don't push back now, the damage may be felt for decades to come. Thanks for tuning in to our very first episode of The First Sip by Bakes on Things. It is our morning show. We will be back this evening with our last word. And that's the name of the new show this afternoon. So I can't wait to have you join us there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, comment, as I said earlier. And we'll catch you this afternoon. Have a great Monday.